Hello friends, it's Pixie. Welcome back to my home. We are at my art desk today because I got some new paints and I wanted to play with them. And I thought, what better way to have a chill time and try some new paints than recreating the covers of 4 of my favorite books. I wouldn't say this is necessarily a top 4, but they are books that I often think about and I wanted a chance to talk about. So these paints, I haven't had the chance to paint much more with them than this because I am sadly busy, but I really enjoyed this and I can't wait to use them some more. I've wanted these paints for like a year after seeing them on YouTube because I'm probably playing you a clip right now of me opening the little pudding containers or jelly cups that they are in, and it's just so satisfying and juicy and gooey, and I just want my paint experiences to be juicy always. So I've wanted them, but I've restrained myself for a year because I don't need more paints, and I still don't, but it was a spontaneous purchase as my reward for a difficult doctor's appointment. Not COVID related, so don't worry. And they are also pretty cheap for the amount of paint you get. So that's how I'm justifying this. And they are gouache paints, by the way. I don't think I said that even, but they are. Unfortunately, I've only found one illustrator so I can credit them properly. So the original cover for Malamander, which I will be showing you on the screen, is by Tom Booth, and I just love how this and also the cover for the sequel, Gargantus, looks. They're just so good, so beautiful. But the inside of the book, let me tell you about Malamander, because it was quite a revelation for me. So in November and December last year, I was feeling really down. I was really sad. I've said that on the channel before, but yeah. And one night I was looking for a new book to listen to on audio, and I was feeling really tired in the brain, so I didn't want anything too challenging. And it occurred to me that maybe a middle grade sort of fantasy would be a nice place for my brain to get some kind of stimulation, but not be overly exhausted. I chose this because I've heard Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin talk about it, and I know he shares some of my tastes when it comes to adult books, so I took his middle grade recommendation and I listened to Malamander, and I love it so much. I have already reread it once. So this is essentially a fantasy mystery kind of book. We follow 2 main characters, the perspective character Herbert Lemon, who works in the Lost and Foundry at a hotel, and a girl named Violet Parma, who comes there because she's lost and she wants to be found. And if that in itself doesn't just tickle your imagination, then I don't know. I just don't know. The book just has this wonderful, magical feeling to it that I didn't know my cold, dead 30-year-old heart could feel anymore, but I can. So if you're an adult, and if you're watching my channel, you are, because it's plus 18s only here, and you think that you won't get much out of reading middle grade, I suggest giving it a go anyway and see, because you might be surprised. And if you don't like it, then you haven't really lost anything, because then you know, and you know more about yourself as a reader. I'm not sure how much to say about it because I don't want to spoil anything, but I want to say that the pacing of this book is just impeccable. The mysteries start coming and they don't stop coming. So the action is really going throughout. Once you start listening to it, I didn't want to stop because it was really engaging. And the other cast of characters as well is really colorful, is the word I would use, I think. It takes place in a seaside town called Erie-on-Sea, and there are characters with names such as Mrs. Fossil and Sebastian Eels. It's just very charming. but also a bit spooky. So if you like spooky vibes, but you don't feel like being scared one evening, then this is a great book. I just really feel like it's a book that's exactly what it needs to be. Like every single word needs to be there, and it has everything that it needs to have to do what it intends to do. It's the book it needs to be. I know that's kind of a vague phrasing, but I hope you know what I mean. It was just a wonderful reading experience, and I hope you give it a go. Open your mind to middle grade and join me in this wonderful magical world. Then if we go in the order of the page, we have The Iron Heel by Jack London. This is a book I've talked about before on my channel, so I'm not gonna go too deep into it. I just want to say that it's often labeled as a dystopian story because it kind of anticipates the rise of fascism as a response to an unsuccessful socialist revolution, because fascism historically has only been able to rise after socialist revolutions have been defeated and the workers' movement has been squashed, obliterated. That was the case in Italy and in Germany and in Spain. But the extraordinary thing about The Iron Heel is that Jack London had never seen this happen. This book came out in 1906, before we had the word fascism. And, you know, as a Marxist myself, if I were to review it from a propaganda standpoint, I might wish that it had an optimistic conclusion, because a revolution is possible. But we know that now, because in 1906, Jack London hadn't seen fascism in real life, but he also hadn't seen the successful socialist revolution in Russia, which, despite the degeneration and the rise of Stalinism after, was a successful revolution, which proved that the working class can take power. So I can't really fault Jack London for not anticipating that, I don't think. But let me tell you what the book is about. It's about a woman who meets a Marxist, and when she listens to him talk, she starts learning about Marxism and starts dating him, and they go around doing revolutionary work together. There are other characters in the story as well who have an awakening to Marxism with quite interesting arcs. A priest is one, and the way that this man talks to people about Marxism is really educational. So it's a really good introduction to some of the basics of Marxism if you're interested in that. I would really recommend it to anyone who is at all interested in politics and fighting for a better world. But don't take the pessimistic ending to heart too much. Like I said, Jack London didn't know that a revolution is possible, but we know that now. Also, I really like this cover. It is very straightforward and pretty brutal. I don't think I did it justice completely, but that's fine. This was just for fun. Now, the next book is Perdido Street Station by China Miéville, and this book is fucking incredible. I struggled to describe it when I tried to sell it to people. I mean, not literally sell it. I'm not affiliated with any bookseller, but like when I try to get people to read it. So it's about a scientist who's like a freelance scientist. He's a bit at odds with the university and the government. He lives in a city called New Crobuzon, and there are all kinds of fantasy races of people living there. Our main character is a human. His girlfriend is what's called a Kepri. So she has a human woman's body, and instead of a human head, she has a scarab. It's a whole bug. Not a bug head. It's the whole bug where the human head would have gone. There are also cactus people, and there are like water spirits, and there are also semi-sentient robots and like vacuum cleaners and all kinds of wild stuff. And it's just so well done. It's a really rich world, but Miaville is really great at doing world building in a seamless way. So he will just offhandedly mention something because to the main character, these things are natural. So it's just an offhanded mention. And you, the reader, who lives in the regular ass world, is just like, whoa, what was that? It's just so incredibly, incredibly fun. But it gets pretty dark, it's pretty grimy. It gets kind of graphic, and it is not a happy book. So anyway, this scientist is approached by a bird-like creature called a Garuda who wants to commission him for something. And in accepting this commission, he starts unraveling a whole series of unlikely events. I'm not going to say too much. I think I've done a fair... I hope I've given you some kind of feeling of what reading this book is like. It's very intense and interesting, and I did not want to put it down when I was reading it. And it's also one I really recommend if you're into fantasy at all, or if you're into sci-fi at all. I think you would also enjoy it. And also just if you're into like a good story. And last but not least, you know she's one of my top favorites. It's Helen Oyeyemi, and this cover is for her short story collection, What Is Not Yours Is Not Yours. So this short story collection is really hard to describe. It revolves around the theme of keys, which I'm a dumbass. I didn't pick up on that until I saw it explained to me. I didn't realize that was something that ran through the stories. I did notice when certain characters reappeared in other stories, but I'm really excited to reread it. I don't have the copy with the cover that I'm recreating here, so I couldn't check in it for who the illustrator was, and I haven't been able to find that information online, unfortunately. So if you have been able to find it, or if you know for some reason, please let me know, because I really love this illustration. I think it's really cool. And I would love to know who made it so I can follow them. It's not super common for me to adore a short story collection this much. I usually finish reading a short story collection and I'm like, oh, yeah, that was nice. Helen Oyeyemi has a special power to make me feel like my mind is expanding and make me feel like the world has become bigger and more beautiful than it was before I read her work. And this short story collection did that for me even more than all her other books. They also do that, but these short stories did that to an even larger extent. They're really weird, and they're not for everyone, but give them a go is just my advice to you, because, yeah, I think they're really brilliant. I think that's all I wanted to say. So please let me know if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. It's okay if you don't agree with me, we can still be friends. And also let me know if you have used this kind of paint. Yeah, what do you think of it? Before you go, please allow me to say thank you to my patrons for supporting my art. If you want to see more of the art that I make, I am on Instagram and it's linked below, so you can check that out if you would like to. There are also more links down below, including to my Patreon, if you have $1 to spare for an extra art video every month. That's a pretty good deal. Regardless, I want to thank you so much for coming to hang out with me. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you had a nice time. So until I see you next time, please take care of yourself, drink water, have fun, make stuff, and stay safe out there. Bye!